Fans, buckle up for this one. Before sealing that £35 million deal for Magpies, Newcastle United actually knocked on Chelsea's door chasing a young centre-back who's already turning heads all over Europe. That's right, the Magpies seriously considered signing Josh Achimpong before bringing Theo to St. James Park. I'm Rodrigo, and this is Newcastle Mania, the channel made by a fan, for fans, who live and breathe Newcastle United. You blinked, and Newcastle were all over the headlines. Today we're diving into a story that ties together Chelsea, AC Milan, Bayern Munich, and, of course, our Toon Army. And let me tell you, the biggest news comes right now, so stick with me until the end. But first, just a quick word. If you love Newcastle and want to stay up to date with everything happening around our club, hit that subscribe button right now. It costs nothing, it helps massively, and it makes all the difference to growing our black and white community. So here's the deal, fans. Before signing Theo, Newcastle looked into bringing in Josh Achimpong, Chelsea's 19-year-old gem who's already catching the eye of Europe's elite. Fabrizio Romano himself confirmed on the Here We Go podcast that there were concrete calls made by our club. And Achimpong is no ordinary prospect. Fans, we're talking about a 19-year-old defender who's already being chased by some of the biggest names in Europe. He's seen as one of Chelsea's brightest academy jewels, and the Blues actually consider him a key part of their long-term future at Stamford Bridge. Just to show you how highly rated he is, Bayern Munich even put his name on their watch list, especially when there was talk of Kim Min-jae leaving the club. Think about that. If Bayern, a club famous for spotting defensive talent, were monitoring Achimpong, you know we're talking about someone special. And it doesn't stop there. Here in the Premier League, other clubs were interested too. Bournemouth tried a bold move. They wanted him on loan with an option to buy at the end. But Chelsea were crystal clear. Absolutely not. They refused to even sit down at the table. And that's exactly where Newcastle came in. The board knew we needed a right-sided centre-back, someone who could not only compete straight away but also grow alongside the club's ambitious project. Achimpong looked like the perfect fit. Young, full of potential, already used of English football, and a player Eddie Howe could mold into something special. But then came the answer nobody likes to hear: not for sale. Chelsea slammed the door shut and made it clear they had no intention of letting him go right now. And to be fair, you can understand why. Giving up a talent like that would basically mean handing a future star to a direct Premier League rival on a silver platter. In the end, Newcastle had to switch gears and push hard to close the deal for Magpies. But the feeling remains, the board aren't just chasing established names, they're also aiming at the brightest young prospect in football. And that, fans, tells you everything about the scale of the project being built at St. James Park. And of course, fans, this story didn't just slide under radar. As soon as Fabrizio Romano revealed that Newcastle had made contact for Achimpong, social media absolutely exploded. Amongst the Toon Army, the reaction was mixed. Plenty of fans were delighted, saying this is exactly the ambition they want to see, targeting the Premier League's brightest young talents, aiming high, and proving that Newcastle aren't in the market just for average players. For that side of the fan base, even though it didn't work out, the fact that Achimpong's name was on the list shows the club are thinking big. But others questioned the strategy. Some supporters wondered, wouldn't it have been better to fight harder for a young Premier League player instead of going abroad for Theo? That debate went wild on X, with split opinions. On one hand, there's the argument that players already adapted to English football have an advantage. On the other, people pointed out how Eddie Howe has worked wonders with signings from abroad, like Bruno Guimaraes and Isaac. And it wasn't just Newcastle fans weighing in. Chelsea supporters joined the debate too. Many Blues fans said Achimpong is already viewed internally as an untouchable talent who could become a first-team starter in a few years. So for them, it was no surprise at all that the club shut the door immediately. Some even joked, of course we're not going to let a future star strengthen a direct Premier League rival. The media also picked up on it. In England, several outlets highlighted how Newcastle's move showed a new mentality, not just looking for players ready now, but also going toe-to-toe with Europe's giants for top young prospects. Meanwhile, in the international press, especially in Germany and Spain, the buzz was that Newcastle's interest proved the club is cementing itself as a new force in the European market. At the end of the day, The overall feeling was that Chelsea's refusal was expected, but Newcastle's attempt alone sent a powerful message. This club is ready to go head-to-head with the biggest names. Whether it's signing proven quality like Theo or chasing talents who haven't even hit their peak yet, Newcastle United are making everyone pay close attention to what's happening at St. James Park. Alright lads, here's an important detail. Newcastle's search for a centre-back didn't just start now. This is a story that's been going on since last season. First, the club's eyes were on Malik Thiaw, who had already been on the radar even before the negotiations with AC Milan. Then the board turned their attention to Marc Guehi, Crystal Palace's captain and one of the most consistent defenders in the Premier League. But then came the shock. The Eagles stood firm and demanded nothing less than £70 million to let the player go. A price completely out of reality for Newcastle. The club respects Guehi's quality, no doubt, but they weren't about to throw so much of the budget on just one player. And so, the talks collapsed quickly. Meanwhile, Guehi kept shining at Palace, broke into the England squad and almost moved to Liverpool. But that deal also fell apart at the very last minute, leaving him still at Selhurst Park. This whole story shows how Newcastle had been chasing a big defensive signing for ages, especially someone to strengthen the right-hand side of the backline. But they always hit the same wall, inflated prices and heavy competition. That's why Thiaw's arrival now feels so important. It finally puts an end to a saga that's been bothering the board and the fans for months. Now, Thiaw is here at Newcastle. He's arriving as a long-term replacement for Fabian Schär, who turns 34 this December. But in the short term, it won't be easy at all. Schär and Dan Burn are still a rock-solid partnership, with 3 clean sheets in their last 4 games. But with the Premier League and Champions League piling up fixtures, it's only a matter of time before Thiaw gets his chance to step in. And here's something worth pointing out. This type of move is becoming more and more common. Bayern Munich, for example, also considered Achimpong early in the summer, when they thought Kim Min-jae might leave. So we're talking about a player already on the radar of Europe's giants. Newcastle putting themselves in that same race shows that the club isn't afraid of aiming high. So what's the picture now? Achimpong is still at Chelsea, probably untouchable for the time being. But Newcastle went and got Thiaw for £35 million, a much more realistic fee, and one that could bring instant results. And long term, it proved the board is looking both at emerging talent and at players already tested in top leagues. Just imagine, lads, if Achimpong really does become a superstar in the future, we'll always remember that Newcastle was so close, almost through that door. But at the same time, with Thiaw we've got a signing who can be the backbone of our defense for years to come. The truth is, the club are moving smartly, balancing ambition with pragmatism. So what do you reckon? Lads, did Newcastle absolutely nail it by going for Thiaw, or should they have pushed harder for Achimpong? Would you like to see the club bet more on young Premier League prospects, or stick with proven names like Thiaw? Drop your thoughts down below because I really want to know what you think. And before you go, make sure you're subscribed to the channel if you haven't already. Hit the bell so you don't miss the next videos, and smash the like button because it really helps to grow our black and white community. I'm Rodrigo. This is Newcastle Mania, the channel made by fans, for fans. Thank you so much for sticking with me until the end. Hoey the lads, because the best is still to come.